How dare you blame Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beast for your kids being morbidly obese? It's not their fault, it's fucking yours! Coach Reg, in today's video, we're calling out KSI, Logan Paul, and none other than Mr. Beast. What do you think this is about? Of course, it's about Lunchies versus Lunchables. These three famous individuals, they made a lot of claims. Bold claims. How Lunchies is healthier than Lunchables. And so I'm going to level with you. Are they lying? Are they making shit up, or are they actually true to their word? Let's get right into it and see what does Dr. Mike say about this. And I'm not talking about Israel.
KSI, Mr. Beast, and Logan Paul have announced they were teaming up and launching a new food product called Lunchly to compete with the uber popular kids brand Lunchables. And the reception has been less than stellar. Many creators took to social media to criticize the product and the creators themselves.
And so, of course, people love to pick on social media influencers. And so seeing as Mr. Beast, the most famous YouTuber of all, combined with KSI and Logan Paul, and you can see why other YouTubers are going to put them down. The negative tension, deserved or not deserved, is going to get eyeballs on their videos. I'm going to be impartial as I always am and tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Why not teach kids healthy eating habits? They're comparing their product to Lunchables, which in itself is highly processed crap. None of them are passionate about health towards fans, only their wallets. So disappointing. Now here's the thing, if you said that about a channel that's devoted to fitness, health, and so on, then I would totally agree with you. But since when has Mr. Beast been a fitness influencer? Last I checked, Mr. Beast released something known as Feastables. It's chocolate. He literally made a chocolate bar. Now, is chocolate healthy? I don't think so. But since when has Mr. Beast been a fitness influencer? He should be allowed to sell what he wants. Now, personally, I'm not a fan. I sell protein bars, something healthier with 20 grams of protein. But just because I sell protein bars doesn't mean that he has to. There's a ton of fast food chains, bullshit, unhealthy things being sold, and I don't see people making countless videos saying, shame on you. Let's take McDonald's and Wendy's, for example. Do y'all think that's healthy? And so why are you not making videos just saying, hey, McDonald's and Wendy's are bad people. They shouldn't be allowed to sell this. They're targeting their audience towards children. Of course they are. You ever go into a McDonald's? Did they not sell Troy's and try to get the kids addicted to McDonald's so that they're lifetime consumers? Of course they do. And so how is it any different? What happened to YouTubers, man? I cannot say anything anymore. This is selling stuff for the sake of making money. Simple, how does this benefit their fans? This is selling crap to kids who don't know better than to trust the people who are selling it to them. When's the last time you think that a 6-year-old went to the store and bought a Lunchable? Or do you not think that it's the parents who are buying these products and giving it willfully to their kids? Put your thinking caps on. 5-year-olds don't go into McDonald's and Wendy's and order a chicken nugget and fries. The parents do. You parents are the ones to blame. And you're going to sit there and blame social media influencers for creating a product that the parents want to purchase for their children? Really? And so who should you really be blaming? The children or the parents? It's the parents' fault. They're the ones that make the money and pay for the bills. And all a parent has to do is say, you're not getting Lunchies. Sorry, I'm going to make you something healthy from scratch rather than freaking being lazy-ass, bullshit, shitty-ass parents and buying bullshit for their kids. That's right, I'm pointing a finger at you, you parents of the world. Why don't you give a shit about the health of your children? How dare you blame Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beast for your kids being morbidly obese? It's not their fault, it's fucking yours! Yours, I tell you. Freaking parents. Y'all are gonna make YouTube videos saying that these are bad people for capitalizing on children. They're just guys making products that the parents want to buy. I mean, do you not think there's worse things out there in this world? There are literally people who sell cigarettes, alcohol, Have you ever heard of alcohol? It's a class 1 carcinogenic set out by the WHO, the World Health Organization. Oh, but Mr. Beast is a bad person because he sells Feastables. Really?
But when terms like healthier or better for you get tossed around, I feel it's important to set the record straight.
And so let us now set the record straight. Is it better for you and is it healthier than Lunchables?
Lunchables are basically these pre-packaged do-it-yourself meal kits. They've been super popular with kids. However, it's been known, especially by experts, that while these kits are fun and tasty, their nutritional value is just not good.
And so clearly, every freaking parent out there in the world must know and realize that Lunchables are not healthy. There's no way that you could be so stupid as to think that something processed to this extent is going to be as healthy as somebody you could have made your child at home. There's no way I believe that. I don't believe parents are that stupid. Well, the majority of them aren't. And if you are that stupid, stop having children. Why are you doing this?
They're often too high in sodium, saturated fat, and added sugars, and don't use healthy whole food ingredients.
And so we already know that Lunchables is a low quality food that you should rarely, if ever, be giving your children. Shouldn't be a daily thing. Perhaps it's a treat once in a while, once a week. You give it to your child and say, hey, eat this at recess. I didn't have time to make you a real lunch because mommy and daddy were hungover. Or perhaps we watched too much television or we played on our phones too much. Okay, children? And so instead of getting something healthy, we're going to waste our money on some bullshit product and give you something that potentially could lead to obesity because as parents, we don't care about you as much as we do about us. That's the truth. And so, yeah, parents, you're watching this, you're thinking, Coach Greg's an asshole. Yeah, I am, because I'm calling you out for doing what you're doing. I don't have kids. I don't have children. And so you can say what you want, but I don't have children that I have to feed.
But now what about Lunchly? Starting with the first claim, in the press release announcing the product, Logan Paul was quoted as saying Lunchly is a healthier alternative and that it's a better for you lunch option compared to Lunchables.
And so Lunchies, clearly, if they believe that their products are healthier than Lunchables, they're going to point that out. Look, guys, those of you who are buying Lunchables right now, if you make the choice to switch to Lunchies, it's going to make it a little bit healthier. And so that is clearly a very strong selling point if that is actually true.
Throughout the Lunchly website and the social media promo posts, you'll see countless comparisons being made to Lunchables. To be honest, some of the comparisons are kind of cringe and don't make much sense to me, but maybe that's because I'm not the target demo.
But remember, that's not the only thing they point out. And so here's a side-by-side comparison. Lunchies are more flavorful. In comparison, the competition is more standard. But are they not pretty much exactly the same? More flavorful versus standard. What do you mean by standard and what exactly is flavorful? And so let me be clear. Those are just bullshit terms that perhaps ChatGPT said, hey, you should say that they're flavorful. That'll get people to buy it. Oh, and when you talk about your competition, say that they're standard. They're just a standard. It means nothing.
Big gestures versus mid moments? I certainly don't remember that lesson in my nutrition classes.
Next, our Lunchies are big gestures. Big ones. Gestures, that is. In comparison, Lunchables, they're just mid moments. It's mid. I mean, if that's not Gen Z lingo, I don't know what is. What's next? Lunchables, they need to touch glass. And we should start glazing Lunchies because they're so much more flavorful. Oh, and let me remind you that Lunchies have 400 milligrams of electrolytes. Oh, really? Do they? Exactly 400? Yeah, in comparison, the leading brand has only got 55 milligrams. Well, last I checked, sodium is an electrolyte, not just potassium. Sodium and potassium. Now remember, there are several different electrolytes, but we're going to focus on these two, and you'll see why.
And sodium, which is not only missing, but replaced by electrolytes. And unlike all the other macros, is only labeled potassium and only in the prime bottle in the kit, comparing it to the Capri Sun in the Lunchables.
And so what they did is they switched the word potassium to electrolytes and wrote down 400, which is exactly the amount of milligrams of potassium are in the prime energy drink. And so they compared it to the Lunchables only having 55. But electrolytes include sodium. And so why didn't they include sodium if it's in fact an electrolyte? And so, my opinion, this is deliberate and intent false advertisement. This is no joke, and I don't understand why it's allowed to label this way on their ingredients list. Can you imagine McDonald's rebranding their food as electrolyte burgers with electrolyte fries? Love how they said how Prime was a sports drink, not a kid's drink. Now what? Prime for the kids every lunch, every day? And so Prime was criticized for making this sports drink of which kids were going to drink, and they said, no, this is a sports drink. It's not necessarily for kids, because remember, there is too much potassium in comparison to the sodium in order for this to be known as an electrolyte replacement drink. It's not ideal for hydration. When you sweat out sodium, and so this is not appropriate. However, if you added more sodium, Prime wouldn't taste as good. And so what do you think they really cared about? Taste or what it does to the body? Sodium getting rebranded as electrolytes will be taught in marketing textbooks one day. Logan Paul is so uneducated that he doesn't even know what's in his own products. Crazy how even a sports medicine doctor can't tell the difference between sodium and potassium. Well, I'm pretty sure that they can. The referenced 400 milligrams of electrolytes is the potassium in Prime, you idiot. But you don't state that. You state 400 milligrams of electrolytes. Sodium is an electrolyte, Logan. And so if you labeled it as 400 milligrams of electrolytes, you forgot about the sodium. Do you get it now, Logan? Mr. Genius? And so I'm surprised that anyone in this planet who's above the age of 20 wouldn't realize that sodium and potassium are both electrolytes. And so if you leave out labeling the sodium as an electrolyte, you're stating that only potassium is electrolyte and not the sodium. Does that make sense, Logan?
400 milligrams is not the amount of electrolytes in Prime, at least in the image that Logan shared. 400 milligrams of potassium plus 5 milligrams of sodium equals 405 milligrams of electrolytes. It's not about nitpicking, it's just about being reasonable and honest to help further the conversation.
And so it's not nitpicking, he clearly left it out. And is it because he didn't understand that sodium is actually an electrolyte? Does he only think, oh, potassium is an electrolyte, but sodium is not?
And it's honestly really hard to draw perfectly clear conclusions for several reasons.
How are we supposed to make a fair comparison? Lunchables, for example, are larger as in they contain more grams than Lunchies. And so if you're buying Lunchables, you're getting more actual product. Kind of like when you buy a Seco bar, it weighs 70 grams. In comparison, the Anabar weighs 65 grams. And so it's less of a bar, it's smaller. And so when you compare that this has 230 calories and there's 70 grams of product and the Anabar has more calories and less product, you can quickly see the comparison. This clearly a much better bar for if you're going on a diet. But are kids who go to school supposed to be on diets? Should they be choosing the lowest calorie options for them? And so, for example, do you want your child, perhaps is 7, 8, 9 years of age, I don't know, going to school and having a 230 calorie lunch, and that's all they get? Is that really enough for them?
Lunchly has less sugar and therefore less calories than Lunchables in comparable kits. That's probably due to the drink component of the kit, as Capri Sun uses sugar and Prime is artificially sweetened.
And so why do you think that there's less sugar in Lunchie versus Lunchables? It's because they put artificial sweeteners in Prime energy drink in comparison to regular sugar in Lunchables. And so that's the difference. And so if you want your child to consume less sugar and instead replace that with artificial sweeteners, well, that's on you as a parent.
Lunchly has slightly less sodium and saturated fat than comparable Lunchables. That's definitely moving in the right direction. However, both differences were fairly small.
Now, Lunchies has less sodium than Lunchables. But is that because they have smaller portion sizes? I mean, consider this. If you have a 230 calorie option versus something that's 300 and some calories, then obviously it should contain less sodium. The smaller the calories, the less sodium that it should have. And the larger the meal, the more sodium it should have.
Lunchly does use real cheese as opposed to cheese product, signaling that at least one ingredient is less processed than in Lunchables.
Now, one of their main points is that the cheese made in Lunchies is real cheese versus artificial crap made in Lunchables. I think that's a fair point. Overall, in my own personal opinion, remember, I'm not a doctor, but in my personal opinion, Lunchies a little bit healthier than Lunchables. Little bit. Not going to argue that. I believe that they're accurate in stating that. However, consider this. Prime isn't even a good sports drink. It's too low in sodium and much higher in potassium, which makes it taste better. Doesn't make it work better. As a mom, my biggest issue with Lunchables and the like is that the marketing is predatory. Children don't have the knowledge about nutrition to discern whether or not the marketing is honest. They just blindly believe it and walk away thinking that ultra-processed food is healthy. And so, Mom, I'm going to level with you. How often do you think that a 5 or 7 or 9-year-old is able to distinguish between the macronutrients, micronutrients, and electrolyte profile of the foods that you're eating? Do you really think that that's what kids are thinking? And when's the last time that you sent your kids to the grocery store to go and feed your family? It's not the kid's job, it's your job. And so what does it matter? And so you're right. Children don't have the knowledge to discern between healthy options and bad. That's your job. And so when your kid says, Mommy, 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 I want Lunchables, I want Lunchies, you say, sorry, you're not getting it. And you perhaps give them a peanut butter and jam sandwich. Notice I didn't say peanut butter. I said peanut butter from my freaking cookbook. Why are you giving your kid peanut butter? There's far healthier versions. Make them your own peanut butter at home. More protein, less fat, healthier. Interested in my cookbook? Code Greg, 15% off.
Is it fair to say that Lunchly is healthier? I guess one can say yes, but honestly, probably more so as a marketing tactic.
Is it going to be healthier if you switch over from using Lunchables to Lunchies? That is the golden question. And the answer is, it depends. If your kid needs calories, they're a normal child, they're not morbidly obese, they need to, for example, consume perhaps 500 or maybe 600 calories during a meal. If they don't consume that many calories, they're not going to have enough energy. And so if you're buying your kid Lunchies and it's only got 230 calories, they perhaps would need 2 or maybe even 3 to give them the energy that they need. And so what you're doing in that case is underfeeding them. Another way of stating that is you're starving your child. And so would it not be better to give your child a Lunchables that perhaps has more calories? And that would give them the energy they need to at least sustain them enough until they get home from school.
Let's look at the recently passed nutrition standards set forth by the USDA for school lunches and see how Lunchly compares.
And so does Lunchies pass the USDA standards for meals given to children at school? If it passes, then obviously it's healthier. But remember, that's a big if.
Less than 10% of calories should come from saturated fat. Lunchly turkey, 23% of calories come from saturated fat. Less than 10% of calories should come from added sugars. Lunchly turkey, 10.4 comes from added sugars.
And so if you look at the USDA standards, there's too much saturated fat and a little bit too much sugar. And you're thinking, yeah, but it almost passes. It's almost good enough. But when you compare the standards, they have a little bit too much sugar, but only just over 200 calories. But a normal child should, as it states right here, be eating between 550 and 650 calories in a meal. And so it has too much sugar, despite the fact it has less than half of the calories that it should have to be a quality meal for your child. And so what does that mean? It means that in reality, it's got over double the sugar that it should have.
Lunchly turkey contains only 230 calories, which would mean a kid would need to eat about 2.7 portions to consume enough calories. And if they did that, they'd get nearly 1,300 milligrams of sodium, which is also significantly over the USDA standard.
And so what the reality is this, when you factor in the calorie per calorie comparison, it's got way too much sodium, it's got way too much sugar, and it's got way too much fat. It doesn't pass. It fails in every sense of the word.
Finally, the grain guidelines state that 80% of lunch meals must be whole grain, and Lunchly turkey does not list any whole grain ingredients.
And so there isn't whole grain ingredients, despite the fact it's supposed to have 80% whole grain. And so if you're a child giving your kid either Lunchables or Lunchies for school, then my opinion is you're a bad parent. You're thinking, no, I'm not. How dare you say that? Well, you're literally giving your child something that's been shown to increase their chances and likelihood of getting obesity, perhaps cancer. And so how is that good? Would you be a good parent if you only give your kid a half of a cigarette instead of a full cigarette? Would you be a good parent if you gave your child a half a shot of whiskey instead of a full shot? You're thinking, no, I'm a good parent. I gave them half of that poison. It's still half. And so when you say, I'm giving my child Lunchies instead of Lunchables because I want to have that praise, I want to be that good parent because I'm giving them something healthier. Technically, you're right. Great job. You're giving them less poison than you used to. Yay!
I just think if a company was truly interested in creating a healthier lunch kit for kids, the USDA standards should be the minimum starting requirements.
Now, in saying that, they have every freaking right in the world to sell and market their products. If they don't use shady practices like mislabeling the products, trying to bamboozle you with the amount of electrolytes in the products, and remember, they're not fitness influencers. Their job is not to make your kids healthy. That's your job. And so to point the finger at other people and not take ownership of your duty as a parent to look after the health of your child, well, that is on you. And so rather than pointing the finger and trying to say that Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beats are bad people, why don't you look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I buying this? It's literally that easy. To the same extent, if you don't like my video, and by the end of this video you write a comment, you're a horrible person, I don't like you, you did this and you did that and you're bad. Why did you sit and waste your time watching my video? You're allowed to do something known as this. Next. Next. You press the button and you watch the next video. You don't have to watch my video. You don't have to leave a comment. And so if you don't like what I'm doing, you move on. And so to the same extent, if you don't like lunchies, you don't like Lunchables, you move on. You buy your kid an apple, you make the kid a freaking sandwich with actual meat, vegetables, and so on. You spend the extra 5 minutes of your precious time and do something great for your child.
Lunchly versus Lunchables.
With Lunchly, you get double the amount of liquid.
Prime has no sugar added, more electrolytes, and more B vitamins.
And so the reason it has less sugar is because they've added artificial sweeteners. And so depending on your stance on artificial sweeteners, this may or may not be good for you and your child.
Crunch Bar. Whoa. Feastables Crunch
Bar.
And so notice when they compare a Crunch Bar to a Feastables Crunch Bar, all they can do is boo versus yeah, because they're both not healthy. I don't think any of you parents out there needed to hear that. I think you already knew that. It's not as if one is a healthy chocolate and one is an unhealthy chocolate. And so do with that information what you will.
All right, we'll start off with the Lunchables.
Bro, I'm sorry, that's trash. All right, now we're trying Lunchly. Come on. We're not biased at all, but ours is way better.
Admittedly, he says, we're not biased at all. And when I look at both cheeses, I don't see one cheese that looks better than the other. Pick which one is which. Which one did you see was the healthy cheese and which one was not healthy? I couldn't tell by looking, and I didn't taste it. Remember, they're spitting out, but aren't they slightly biased considering it's their own product? Already, aren't you feeling it's a little bit biased when they show a full-size chocolate bar? When it's not a full-size chocolate bar that you're going to get, would it not be misleading if I were to hold this up and said, welcome to Seco Bar, and I held out a bar the size of my scribbler book, and then when you open your Lunchables, it's a very tiny mini bar? Is that not slightly, perhaps false advertisement, maybe a little bit misleading? Lunch just got bigger and better, Lunchly. And so technically, is it really bigger? Now, I know it's got more liquid in Prime, it's got more weight to it because of the water, but is it actually bigger? Well, if it contains fewer calories, you could argue that it got smaller. As in, it's a meal for your kid on a diet. But should your kid in fact be dieting? You might be as an adult thinking the lower calories, the better. But what the USDA does is it looks at how many calories should your child be eating, and somewhere between 550 and 650 is what they believe you should be eating from grades primary up to grade 5, and slightly more as you get older. And so if you're choosing a Lunchly that perhaps has 230 calories or perhaps 300 and something calories, it's clearly only got about half of the calories that your child actually needs. Interested in getting a Seco Bar rather than a Lunchable for a snack, not for a full meal? Consider getting Seco Bars from HDLT Supplements. Delicious, soft, 230 calories, 20 grams of protein. This is a great snack. It's a snack. And so head over to my website, code Greg, 15% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch those two bloops. Watch them both this time. And of course, as per usual, get to my website and get Cookbook 3.1. It's available in a hard copy and PDF, as well as the Circle Diet Book and the Training Book. Get both of these. Also, if you want to get the Harder Than Last Time supplements, it's on the website, and the free, that's right, free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages. Get to the website, join the 300,000 plus newsletter subscribers, and until next time, I am out.